Welcome to the LFC Roundtable podcast. This is the podcast where we break down everything from the feeds. I'm your host, Turn Armstrong, and with me today is, you've probably heard him, but might not, it's Brent. Welcome on. How you doing, Brent?
I was gonna ask, so is this the one, because we just changed platforms, is this the one where we're always on screen?
Yes.
Or is this the one, okay, so I can't do anything. Okay, fine, sounds good.
I was trying to set something else up. We were running into some technical difficulties. It'll probably be ready for next time. It doesn't really matter at all to you guys, but we did try. And no matter what happens, Brent, you'll always be on the screen, so don't worry about it.
All right.
Also with me today is Melissa. How you doing, Melissa?
I'm doing well. Daylight savings time really messed me up, but I feel very tired. I heard your update where you were very sleepy, and that's how I felt. So, yeah, I'm excited to be here and talk about Big Brother and get into it. So, yeah.
I was not pleased with daylight savings. I was not.
No, I think you spoke for a lot of us.
Yeah, we need to get rid of it. We really do. So we need to make that happen. We will be live every week to argue about what's been happening on the live feeds for Big Brother Canada 7. And we are live here on YouTube where you can join in the chat and hang out with us and ask questions and all of that stuff. So let's get into it this week. We got plenty to talk about. It's the first roundtable of the season. We're gonna start the stock watch. We're gonna rate people. We're gonna talk about some of the new rules we're gonna have and all. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a fun time. And so let's talk about the season so far. Melissa, what have been your thoughts? We've gotten through 3 episodes. The feeds have been up for a few days now. How are you feeling about the season so far?
I feel good about it so far, but I feel like I'm always playing catch up in the beginning. I feel like for the first week or so, or even the first 2 weeks, I'm still trying to figure out who everyone is, what their connection is to each other. And I feel like that has a lot to do with the fact that we don't get feeds for the first week. So, or the first few days, whatever it is. And so I always feel like I'm coming in halfway through where I've missed a bunch of stuff and I'm trying to figure everything out and piece it together like it's some sort of mystery or something. So I feel like I'm still just trying to get my head around everything. And now I feel like we also have new names for people like Kiki and I just feel like I'm Mama. I feel like I'm missing everything and I'm not getting the full picture. So I feel like I don't know yet quite what to think about the season, and I feel like I won't know until I really get to know the characters more, So, I'm a little all over the place right now, but I'm excited to get into it and talk about it because I feel like you guys pick up on stuff that I'm not picking up on, and I feel like maybe I'm picking up on stuff that you guys aren't picking up on, and I feel like it's also one of those things where when you turn you see all these pregame interviews and you expect people to be a certain way, and then you turn the feeds on and it's like they've bonded with people that you didn't think they were going to bond with. I mean, we have showmances that I wasn't expecting and weird relationships. And you always hear about people who had breakdowns the first week, first few days when the feeds were off. And it's always surprising and to figure out what actually happened. So it's good.
Yeah, it's interesting the first few days of the feeds because the feeds come on and you're trying to establish what is the current state of the house, and then as you're trying to establish that, things are still fluid enough that they're changing. So where under normal circumstances you'd be like, oh wow, look at this person flipping on this person, look at these allegiances shifting. Instead you're like, oh, maybe this was what was real all along and the other thing was fake, or maybe that was real but then it changed. I don't even know for sure. So it's very difficult as things shift because you're looking for a solid foundation, but one doesn't necessarily exist, especially in this house. But I do think that week 2 is generally where the solid foundation is founded. So we'll have to see where that goes. Brent, what do you think? How are you feeling about the season so far?
I'm feeling good. I think I see some people in the chat are boo-hooing about the season already. Oh my God, we need a shake up fast. Give us a twist fast because otherwise it's going to be BB16
We've already had 5 twists.
No twists.
No twist. No twist. It'll work itself out. You have to endure for a week or so. I mean, it's always the same story. And Rob tells you people that it's always the same story. So just chill. Come on.
Chill. So let's talk about what's been happening throughout the week. We're gonna do some recap of the first week, and as also what's been happening since the second week started. So obviously we saw on the episodes Damien entered into the house first, that he got to watch the other house guests enter. He managed to catch that Adam was starting an all guy alliance. He may have also caught that Sam, from what we've heard from Laura, also tried to start an all-female alliance. Funny that they end up getting together later on. But we did not see that on the episode. I don't know if Damien was able to see that from the monitor. We wouldn't really know because he doesn't say anything about what he saw on the monitor, obviously. But he saw that Adam is going to win the first HOH. He's going to nominate Laura and Damien, as we saw. What I learned from Laura is that, she was in this all-female thing with Sam, and then once Adam won the HOH, Sam kind of went, let's go all females. Did I say that? I meant all pretty boys. And went to Adam and said, "You're so pretty." And Laura was like, that's dumb. Why are you doing that? I don't like that. And so Laura ended up being the target. From what we've heard on the feeds, the vote flipped at one point to Damien and then flipped back to Laura. Not entirely sure all of the mechanics of what went down there, but bottom line is that Laura is going to be evicted 11-0 and is going to be our first boot of the season, Melissa.
Yeah, that was unfortunate for my draft, but and I really was actually looking forward to seeing her on the feeds. I thought that she could, be a good character, and I thought she was there to play the game, and I was excited to see what she was going to do. But it's unfortunate to lose her so early, especially when we don't even get to see her on the feeds at all. So, I hate that happened.
Yes. So then we are going to head into the next week where Dane is going to win the HOH. He wants to go after Kiera because Kiera had dropped his name a couple times in the previous week and also had gained a reputation for being a little shady, maybe made up a couple of lies. Maybe they've been kind of emotional over the course of the week. So he wants Kiera on the block. He also wants to put Mackey on the block because Mackey declined his deal, his offer of safety during the HOH competition. As we tell the story of this week, it's really the story of Mackey making unforced error after unforced error to a point where he should not have even been on the block, he should not have been the target, and he should not be going home. But his actions, I believe, have directly led to each step of those things occurring as we've continued throughout the week. So he is going to go up next to Kiera. Kaylin is going to push for a backdoor play, trying to get Adam or Sam backdoored. Dane actually agrees to the plan. He thinks that Sam should leave because Sam is too close with Adam. You probably also saw that on the episodes. He is on board with a backdoor Sam plan. However, the veto does not go the way that they want. Dane is not able to compete in the veto as the HOH, and Adam is going to end up winning it. Melissa, we haven't heard your thoughts yet on this potential new twist that may or may not last the entire season. I think we're all kind of assuming that it will. That the HOH is no longer competing in the veto competition, that there are only 5 players now competing, and the HOH is not one of them. What do you think about that?
Yeah, well, I hate it, but I also hate change, so that's probably has something to do with it. I'm like, this is the way it's been since the beginning of time. We have to keep it. But I mean, it's weird to me that they do that. I'm interested to see how it plays out because, if I feel like we've gotten kind of into a situation where backdoors are like the norm. I don't know if they're really the norm for Big Brother Canada, but they're really the norm for Big Brother US. And I feel like there's got to be something to break that up because it just gets to be so boring and lame. So if this can help with that, I mean, that would be great. I don't know if it will or how it could, but I just feel like it could be it's an interesting experiment. That's for sure. When I first heard it, I was like, absolutely no, I hate it. But now I'm kind of like, well, let's see how this goes. But I don't know. It just seems like a twist to be a twist. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it.
Yeah, I mean, I've talked about this, but in terms of twists, I feel like this is not the worst thing that they could do.
No.
I did ask the audience in the form that they filled out for tonight's podcast. I plan on doing this for each twist, each new element brought in, and I realized that I had to do at least 4 of them for just the first one.
My God.
Because there were so many different things to ask about. Are you for or against a certain twist? And I put a little slider in there, so you can go, very for it or very against it, whatever you want to do. Or maybe you're indifferent, maybe you're right in the middle. So I asked, are you for or against not having the HOH compete in the veto? Now the scale is 0 to 100, with 50 being indifferent and anything over 50 being for it, anything below 50 being against it. It came in at a score of around 39. People are pretty not for it. They're not super hot on this idea that the HOH does not compete in the veto. What do you think about that, Brent?
I mean, it's not surprising. I'm not for it either. So usually Melissa and I usually mirror what people are thinking in the real world, the fans of the show. So I'm not surprised at that at all. I said my piece on this last night. I feel like the more I push against it, the more they're going to want to do it. So I'm over it. I'm done talking about it, Terrence.
All right. Well, we also saw Corey enter the house, and she had to make 3 final 2 deals in order to stay in the house. Corey is not eligible for nomination, and we also recently discovered not eligible to vote this week. She will not be casting an eviction vote. So I also asked, are you for or against the extra house guest twist? I kind of tried to lump all of the different elements of this together, including the fan vote in, the coming in late, and the having to make 3 final 2s. Unsurprisingly, this one got an average of 25, very low on the scale of for or against. Most people are against this one. And again, unsurprising, I think, Melissa.
Oh yeah, it makes sense to me. I hate it. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just bad. Like, it's all bad. Like, I feel like if you ask me about any of the twists, I'm like, yeah, I hate it. Thanks. Like, I just think they're all bad, and I don't like any of them. And I don't think there's been a twist where I've been like, oh, wow, that's really great. There's maybe some where I'm like, well, at least it didn't cause a lot of damage. But I feel like there's none where it's like, wow, what a great, fun twist. Love it. Like, that's never going to happen.
To spoil this, the only twist that the audience was not against was Damien coming in first and getting to watch the house guests come in. The audience had an average of 55. They were pretty lukewarm, maybe slightly for it on that one, but everything else
But I just feel like with that one, it's like, okay, cool. So we vote for someone that we don't even know about, and like most of the people didn't even know there was a vote. So a lot of people were like, wait, what vote? What happened? I didn't see there was a vote. So we have like 10 people voting, like all their friends and family. Like, I just feel like we're not getting that one was stupid too. Like, I like the idea of something like that where it really isn't like super game changing because, they just barely came into the house. And so it's not like you're seeing, these people, you're seeing them and like, oh my God, they're talking and they're trying to get me out or whatever. Like, they don't even know each other. So it's not that big of a deal, but still it's like they voted like before anyone knew who the people were. Like, what if we ended up hating Damien and we were like, why did we give him that? Like, why? And I don't know. I just didn't like it.
Yeah, I
didn't like it at all.
I think it makes sense that it was very like lukewarm, not for or against, because nobody really cared. It was just like
nobody really cared. That's the problem.
This? Yeah.
I will say the thing about him coming in and then seeing the blood veto thing, like if that ends up becoming something, I would like that where, we talked about this last night, where if there's like a riddle, like the Allison thing from season 2, where anybody can find the riddle or the clue and put it together and they show it on TV or the feeds, that would be great. I love something like that.
Yeah, that's something I can get more behind.
Yes, like, because that's fair, but but their twists are not fair. So yeah, I'm sure we're gonna hate whatever they end up doing. Okay.
Yes. All right. So Adam has won the veto, and he is going to start campaigning against Mackey, even though Kiera is currently the target. One of the main reasons he's competing against Mackey is because Mackey openly stated in front of a bunch of people, including Anthony, that Adam is a big threat. He's a beast, and he needs to go. And so Adam says, Mackey is a big threat. He came close to winning both the HOH and the veto, and he's saying he's coming after me. I want him to leave. And Dane is against this because, again, Dane wants Kiera gone. And so Adam has to do some work over the course of a day or so. Adam makes some headway in convincing the rest of the pretty boys, as well as his little group of Sam and Chelsea, to take Mackey out of the game. And then Mackey really just puts the nail in his own coffin by going up to Dane and letting him know, yeah, I might put you up next week. It'll only be fair. You just put me up, so. But, you know, don't worry. There's like 5 other people I could put up too, so it's not. I mean,
this is what you get
when you. So bad.
When you get put a recruit into the house, someone who really doesn't know the game at all and doesn't really care about the game very much. I mean, he just makes, you know, easily correctable mistake after mistake. I mean, you said it right, unforced error after unforced error. And honestly, watching this week, it has been who can make the least amount of errors between Kiera and Mackey, because it seems like both of them are in a race to see who is playing worse. Neither one of them have played great. In fact, both of them, in my eyes, have played pretty abysmal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really the sort of thing where I think they're both almost equally bad at the game, but Kiera has watched the show, and so they are able to avoid some of the like really bad mistakes, like actively targeting people who are in power and telling them that you're going to go after them next week. Like, those are things that they are able to avoid because they have some level of knowledge with the show, whereas Mackey's just like, look.
Yeah, I see it. Mary in the chat. Marietta in the chat is saying, well, you know, not all recruits are like Mackey. That's totally true. But I still contend that if you were not a recruit in the first place, that you're not going to make mistakes like this. I mean, yeah, Kiera has been bad on their own, but at least, as Taryn says, you know, they've watched the show. So, like, they're not going to tell the HOH to their face, yeah, I'll put your ass on the block. That's just something you don't do. Even though you can make a case, well, the HOH is, you know, going to be not in power anymore. Obviously, that person has made bonds and has people around them the first week or so in the house, especially like the first few weeks. HOHs that are in power tend to have groupies around them and people that care what those people think. So to tell him to his face that you're going to put him on the block was not a good idea.
Well, plus it's like, I feel like it's partly common sense too. It's like you're campaigning for votes and you're telling people you're going to go against them. It's like the simplest thing is to just be like, of course I won't vote you out. I'll want to work with you. Like, yeah. It's weird to me that he's just like, whatever. Yeah. Like, I'll probably
he talked about this last night where like, he thinks he's going to get points for being honest. At least I'm honest. I told him, I might put him up.
And like, you think
it's not a game of honesty.
Yeah, like you think it's common sense, but when these shows started, it took a little while for some of the people to catch on that this is a game about deceit and about playing, a certain way. The first 2 seasons of Big Brother that were played this way had a lot of people who were like, no, I would never do stuff like that. Like, and they were overly honest and they did make these kinds of mistakes, and it took a little while for people to catch on. And so, it really, like, you need somebody like Mike Boogie to tell you you can bounce checks in the Big Brother house. Like, that's the thing. That's the norm. And when somebody isn't engaged in that culture at all, then they don't understand that norm. And what seems like common sense to us is actually a leap that Mackey is unable to make. So, and there are people who are able to make that leap too, but Mackey is certainly not one of them. So the pretty boys do agree that Mackey needs to leave, which leads us to the vote on Thursday night. The current vote count stands with Adam, Anthony, Mark, Sam, and Chelsea all as locked votes against Mackey. Now, this is how it currently stands. They could change their mind, but right now they are set. They are decided. They want Mackey gone. They have 5 votes out of 10 with Dane as the HOH. Dane would break the tie and evict Mackey, which means that Mackey is gone. With Corey not voting, there is no chance of a flip because this core group of people have all felt very firmly about this decision, except for potentially Dane. Dane has changed his mind the most recently. He was the most firm that Kiera should leave. However, Dane was convinced by Mackey telling him that he needs to, that he might be put on the block by him. And It seems to be pretty firmly on board with this plan for now. So it does seem like this is pretty locked that Kiera will be staying and Mackey will be leaving. Now, additional votes, they are counting. They do think they will be able to get Damien. They have thought in the past that they can get Eddie, but Eddie has made it pretty clear that he will not vote with them unless that is a big majority, which I do think it will be, especially once Damien votes with them, which I think he will if they let him know that they have the votes anyway. So I think Eddie and Damien will both flip over. I think Eddie will let Kaylin know. I think Kaylin will flip over. They want to leave Kiki and Stef in the dark about this vote. They would love for Kiki and Stef to be the only two people to vote to keep Mackey, because Kiki has been going around trying to campaign for Mackey, like being very firm about how she wants Mackey to stay, and that has rubbed some people the wrong way, and so they want to leave them in the dark. I don't think they will be left in the dark. I think somebody will tell them, whether it's Damien or whoever. I think they will also flip over, and ultimately, if everything stays the same in terms of these pretty boys making this decision, I do think that it still feels like I'm making fun of them by calling them pretty boys.
It does sound like you're like, yeah, these pretty boys.
I think that ultimately it will be a unanimous vote on Thursday to send Mackey home. So that's how I see it right now. Brent, are you on board with this?
No, I'm not on board with this at all. I think it's. I think they're idiots. Number one, for evicting Mackey. Mackey, you can always tell what the hell he's doing, what the hell he's thinking. He has no deceitful bone in his body. He doesn't even know how to play the game. I mean, you can see, like, it's as plain as the nose on his face. Whatever he's going to do, you can tell. I don't know why in the world they would want to evict somebody like that. I mean, yeah, you might be a little butthurt over the fact that he said, "Oh, I might put you on the block," but he doesn't know what he's doing. You just like talk to him for a little bit, and he'll be fine. You can get him to do whatever you want. I mean, somebody like that is totally someone you should keep in the house over somebody like Kiera, who has their own agenda about what they want to do and has played the game, or at least watched the game, and has ideas about how they want to play the game moving ahead in the future. So I don't agree with this at all. I don't know what the hell they're doing. And also, it really is freaking annoying. Big Brother Canada. Yes, I'll come after them, and it's only the first roundtable. But I do not understand why they waited so long to let Corey know that she doesn't have a vote. Because other people who've had immunity in the past have been allowed to vote. Now, it's true that Mara and Veronica last year were not allowed to vote, but we also have Nikki and Tim who are allowed to vote, and Allison, who came into the house late, who also was allowed to vote. So it's sort of like whatever the producers want to do, and apparently Corey was asking every day since she came into the house whether or not she was allowed to vote. That is a big deal, because if Corey is not voting, then that means there's only 10 people, obviously with 5 locked people on one side with an HOH tiebreaker. They can control anything that happens in the house. But if Corey is allowed to vote, then there is a chance that Kiera is going home. And it feels a little shenanigy to me that they would rather, the producers I'm talking about, would rather for somebody like Mackey to go home and then for Kiera to go home. And I don't like it. Like, why did they wait till today to give her an answer, Corey I'm talking about, of whether or not she could vote? Like, it's been, 5 days since she's been in the house? 4 days? 5 days? I mean, like, why was this even a question, whether or not she could vote?
Yeah, I mean, it is weird that they didn't let her know right away. Yeah,
like, I'm sorry to jump back in again, but like the thing that pisses me off is there was a time when Corey's vote didn't matter, where it wouldn't have mattered shit. It was going to be 10-0 with Kiera going home, but they didn't tell her at that point. It was only when her vote might have mattered that they then said, "Oh, by the way, you're not voting." Well, thanks for letting me know now. Now, of course, the house guests are making a stink about it, because they don't really realize the ramifications of what's happening, because not everybody is in on the plan yet that Mackey is the one going home. But us watching from the outside, we know what's happening, and it doesn't look good. Just do better, Big Brother Canada.
You know, it's interesting how often these scenarios happen where this vote matters. Like, thinking back to Big Brother Canada 3, they were speculating for a long time if Cindy had a vote when she came back into the house, because she was ineligible for nomination, and so could she have a vote? And without her vote, our good friend Jordan Parhar would not have gone home. It really, you know, these things matter. And I would not be surprised if.
And just to be clear, Bill in the chat, wait, Brent wants Mackey to stay. The one vote really isn't impacting the outcome. Yes, it is. I'm sorry. The one vote does really impact the vote here. I know currently it's 8-2, but there are votes on the other side that are not completely locked yet. And it's not about me wanting Mackey to stay. It's just about the fact that I feel like Big Brother Canada is playing favorites with what they want to happen in the house. Why did they wait until Monday, game time, to tell Corey that she's not allowed to vote? It stinks. Okay, Bill? That's what I'm saying.
I will say, I think ultimately it probably won't matter. I do think that Damian would vote with the guys no matter what.
I think that's probably true. But at this point, they're not even going to be able to explore the scenario where they might have had a chance at getting a 6-5 vote.
It would make for a more interesting couple of days, I think, leading up to the eviction if they did have to secure Damian or Corey as votes. Yeah. But they don't need to, and they come from a much stronger position, knowing that they have the votes regardless. In order to get Damian and or Corey. So, Corey doesn't even vote.
And just to be clear where I'm coming from, I'm not accusing them of anything. I'm just saying it doesn't look good. So do better and try to make your fans don't let people put the tinfoil hats on if you don't have to. And you didn't have to. All you had to do was say at the beginning of the week, Corey, you're not voting. You got immunity. That's good enough. Sit down and shut up until next week when you play the game. Fine, I would have understood that. If you wanted to allow her to vote, that's cool too. But just changing rules in midstream, that's when everybody starts putting their tinfoil hats on and thinking, oh, well, you're up to something now. Then it stinks.
I will also say that I'm not saying that this is what happened, nor do I think it's even likely that it happened, but it does behoove Corey to pretend she doesn't know if she has a vote, if she knows that she doesn't, because it makes her a little more important for a few more days. When she needs to be making inroads with people, if they feel like they need to court her for a vote, then she has a little bit more leverage, and then, oh, whoops, they finally told me, guess my vote doesn't, I'm not voting. So again, I'm not saying that's what she did, but if you are ever in this situation as a person that doesn't have a vote, I would say go for it. I think that would be a good strategy to take there. So that's where the votes stand. So let's talk about the state of this house, because this is something that we really should get to the bottom of. It's very fluid. There are a lot of different things going on, but I feel like I've gotten this to a pretty decent spot here. The first group we have, obviously, the Pretty Boys. It's
who is at the top, Taryn? Who is at the top?
It's the Pretty Boys.
Yes, I know.
Adam, Dane, Anthony, and Mark. They are running the game right now. And so they are in a tight group with each other. They are loyal to each other, even though they are sometimes taking shots at their own parachutes, but that's fine. There are some subgroups here. The main one is Adam, Sam, and Chelsea. They are all Sam and Chelsea are connected to the Pretty Boys through primarily Adam, and then within the Pretty Boys themselves, you've got Dane and Anthony, who have talked about having a final two. I don't know how solid that is, but they have talked about it. They do seem pretty close, and they are the primary people who are trying to get Sam out of the house, which is obviously a very mutinous sort of idea, and so I think that has bonded them together. They also, this is another section of this state of the house that I'm going to be adding maybe for the rest of the season, but certainly for now, their influence in the house, the people they have influence over. Dane and Mark are tied with Kiki and Stef. They had a kind of four-person alliance going on, but it is breaking up. This relationship is deteriorating, and that's something I'm going to be talking about with a lot of the relationships in the house. There are a lot of things that are deteriorating. This is one of the primary ones. Kiki and Stef have started to not trust Mark as much. Dane is not trusting Kiki as much because of what she's doing with the vote, and so this relationship is breaking down. They have not talked very much in a while, so that's kind of deteriorating, but they still have some level of influence there, I believe. We also have Anthony is very in good with Kaylin. Kaylin really trusts Anthony for some reason. He has some influence over her. I don't know how long this will last. once she realizes that he's going to be evicting Mackey, but there's some reason to believe that he will be able to get through that and maintain some influence with Kaylin. We also have Adam, who is working on Corey. They have a budding relationship that could lead to something, could not lead to something. Damien is close with all of the pretty boys and some of the other people within that sphere of influence, but he's still kind of held at a distance from them, not really let in on a lot of strategy talk. They all like Eddie, but Eddie is not with them, so do not include Eddie in any pretty boy influence sphere. And then they are working to save Kiera, who will be indebted to them a little bit, but they are closest with Chelsea more so than the pretty boys. So I'd say Kiera is within their sphere of influence, but more so in the Adam, Sam, Chelsea subgroup, and that is how the pretty boys are running the house there, Melissa.
Yeah, I'm currently looking at the alliance chart posted by Razor Skate on Twitter, because I'm trying to like make sense of this as you're explaining it, because it's just like there's so many various small groups that are like changing and molding and becoming different groups, and people are getting mad at each other and not being a group anymore. And it's especially in the beginning when there's so many people and when it's so new, it's so hard to follow who's with who. I mean, I feel like the main thing right now, and all we can really talk about are the pretty boys. And I don't feel like there's really like another strong, I guess, named group anywhere else. And so everything is focused on these pretty boys, and it's very strange. But I mean, all I can say is I feel like I just feel like next week when we talk about this, we're going to be like, okay, forget everything we said last week.
Yeah.
Here are the new alliances. Like this is the new dream team. And it's just going to be like every week is going to be different.
Yeah,
well,
I mean,
go ahead, Chair.
Well, that's the thing about the brigade formula, is even a fragment of it is still very powerful, and they are running the house to great effect right now. And so it'll be interesting to see if that continues at all. Brent, what are your thoughts on the pretty boys?
Well, I was more annoyed with the fact that they're purposely leaving Stef and Kiki out of things. And, they're kind of coming down on them, the fact that, well, you're campaigning for Mackey. You're supposed to be with us. You haven't really told them that you changed the plan, Dane. Like, they're still on last week's plan. They still think that Mackey's going home. And I know that now they're getting wind of things that maybe Kiera might be staying. And I know that Josh told me in the chat that Kiki said that she's going to be voting to evict Kiera no matter where the vote goes, even if it's like 9-1 or something like that. So who knows in the end what's going to happen? But I do feel bad for Stef and Kiki because I love them, and I think a lot of people are fans of them, and we want them to stay, and we see the bus coming down to hit them because, for those of you who've not been paying attention, they don't plan on winning HOH. They plan on throwing it, and they are in trouble. Like, I've never seen a pair of house guests who are so clueless about their state of play in the game. Like, they really are in trouble, and they plan on throwing an HOH. Those of us in the chat and on Twitter are hoping for some sort of crapshoot HOH, Taryn, where they might accidentally win it and by definition save themselves or something.
Yes, that does lead me to the next group, which I did label the twins, Kiki and Stef. They are called the twins on occasion because here's the problem, right? Where they have good game sense. They talk a lot of good stuff. They've come very close to naming the Pretty Boys Alliance straight out. They kind of know who they shouldn't trust sometimes. They know kind of what they should be doing sometimes. The problem is, and I talked about this from the very start, they are not very proactive. They're a lot of talk. They talk to each other a lot about what they should be doing, and then they don't do it, which is very bad. They're they hang out with each other all the time. They are not socializing outside of that circle. And really, I'm going to place the majority of the blame on Kiki. I feel like Kiki is dragging Stef down when it comes to being targeted and being left out of things. I think that, I'm looking at a tweet that happened a couple of minutes ago. Kiki is talking with Eddie and saying we should get a group together with, Mama K, Damien, Anthony, Mackey, you, me, Stef, and then, Eddie's like, well, but with Mackey there, there, trying to get them to confirm that they'll vote to keep Mackey. And Eddie says, well, they're not going to tell the truth in front of Mackey. And Kiera's like, well, we're going to put him on the spot. We're going to make it happen. Like, she is campaigning way too hard to try and keep Mackey in the game. And Mackey doesn't even benefit her game all that much. It's not like Mackey is one of her closest allies. It's not like he does that much for her. But for whatever reason, she's really hung up on this.
Yeah, does he even like her?
Yeah.
I know that she was made uncomfortable by Kiera because Kiera had tried to cuddle with her at one point, and they talked about that, and it seems like they got over it.
Yeah,
but
I thought that, not to, just to stop you right there because that's an interesting point. I thought I had seen, because I thought part of this happened before the feeds were on, or maybe I don't know if something happened, I missed it, but that Kiki was making that up about Kiera. That apparently Kiki said, we can go to bed together, or we can sleep in the same bed. And Kiera said, can we cuddle? And she said no, and that was the end of it. But then she lied later on and said that she was made to feel uncomfortable when Kiera asked her to cuddle or something like that. Basically, she blew it out of proportion is what I'm trying to say, and I felt like it was a play on her part, a gameplay on her part.
I can't be entirely sure. From memory, I feel like what happened was Kiera decided that they didn't want to sleep with Kaylin because of the tension between them, and so they went to Kiki. That may be completely made up, but I do believe there was at least some kind of interaction. I don't know whether it was exactly what Kiki said it was or anything like that, but I do it was something that Kiki was not happy with. Kiki, for whatever reason, just has not felt super comfortable around Kiera. Maybe it's because they have the same name. Who knows?
Maybe.
But there's definitely some tension there, and it's really dragging Kiki's game down. And because Steph really only interacts with Kiki and is very, very attached to her socially, it's really dragging Steph down as well. So really, if we did this State of the House at the start of the feeds, I would have said Steph and Kiki, they're in with a lot of people. They have a lot of connections. They're pretty well placed. And now their sphere of influence has shrunk dramatically. They are still kind of close to Dane and Mark, but like I said, that relationship is deteriorating rapidly. They are also close with Damien, and he is really probably the person who is remaining that is closest to them. And yet he is still also close with the guys and also close with a lot of people. So he's not exactly the most reliable person to have on their side. And so Kiki and Steph, not looking great for them all of a sudden. They just they're kind of sinking like a stone here, Melissa.
Well, what I don't understand is why, and I feel like this happens a lot of the time, is that somebody takes it upon themselves to like feel very strongly about who should stay, like the first week or like the second week, whatever. And I feel like at that point in the game, like no one is worth throwing your game away for that. Like there are so many other people in the house that you can work with. So why waste any of your influence or your like status in the house to try and save one person when, like you said, is Mackey really that important to their game? Probably not. If anything, he probably hinders their game. So I just think that it's never a good move to tie yourself to a sinking ship this early in the game. I feel like later on in the game, it's like, okay, yeah, sometimes you need to like put your foot down and try and keep an ally. But this early, it's like it's not critical for them. So I feel like it's doing more damage than it is any sort of good for their game.
I wonder how much of this is Kiki, in her pregame, she talked about how she was an alpha female and that she was like, she's used to being the alpha, the leader, and she's going to have to play the beta in the house. And she has been kind of playing the beta, but I wonder if this is a little bit of her alpha coming through where she feels like she's made her decision and she doesn't want to let other people do something without her. Like no, this is what we're doing, and I'm not going to let anything change it because I'm in charge. I'm making this decision, and I feel like that might be part of it. Because it's hard to come up with an explanation that makes a ton of sense here.
Well, I saw Kiki's whoever's running her Twitter account, because they retweeted something about the fact that the only two people who seem to be in danger right now are Steph and Kiki, and those are the two people who basically told Adam to his face, "We don't vibe, we don't have anything. They aren't kissing his ass." So
Kiki said that directly to Adam. We don't vibe very well.
We don't vibe, exactly. And there's Josh is in the chat saying that was the beginning of the end for Kiki when she told Adam to his face that we don't vibe. What I'm saying is that the fact that that's interesting to write on Twitter, like, well, she's not kissing his ass. That's just not the kind of player she is. Well, all well and good, but a little ass kissing would behoove her right now to try and improve her position in the game, because she doesn't have that many allies, and so I actually wouldn't be opposed to that.
And it does seem like the house is still unsure about where Corey's vote is. I think Corey, I don't know if she's told anyone yet. They're still talking about how Corey is not sure if she's able to vote.
Maybe they haven't told Corey yet.
So they might not have told Corey yet.
They told us, but they didn't tell Corey.
Or maybe Corey really is lying, but who knows?
Don't give her that much credit. Come on.
Yeah.
Right.
So we then have the third major grouping in the house. I call them Kaylin's crew. It's not anything official, and it's a lot smaller than Kaylin thinks it is, but it's basically Kaylin, Eddie, and Mackey. Mackey obviously has got one foot out the door at the moment, and I do believe that Eddie would flip on Kaylin in a heartbeat if he saw the writing on the wall, but that is the current group. Their sphere of influence is not very good either. Kaylin has a good relationship with Dane. She was pretty influential over the nominations and the backdoor Sam plan. However, this is something that is deteriorating. She is not working on it very well, and Dane is being pulled away by the other pretty boys, and they have caught on to the fact that Kaylin is coming for the guys, and so this sort of pretty boys versus Kaylin's crew is really heating up, and so this Dane relationship it's deteriorating quickly. Eddie is in good with almost everyone in the house. Alternatively, nobody is coming after Eddie. Everybody likes Eddie. However, he has very little influence over anybody in those relationships. A lot of people come to him, they want him to do things for them, and he's like, but I feel this way, and they're like, it's great that you feel that way, Eddie, but we're going to do this thing. They like him. They don't respect him a lot. They're not going to take his opinion. They're not going to be swayed by him at the moment, at least. So he's in a safe position, but not an influential position. And so obviously that does not translate very well to Kaylin or Mackey. It really just keeps Eddie safe and puts Kaylin and Mackey in even more danger, to be honest. Mackey,
yes, by the way, just to stop you right there, because that's a lot of info. Doom brings up an important point in the chat. The reason that Kiki is doing what she's doing right now is because she thinks that it's Sam and Adam and Chelsea versus the rest of the house, which is a severe miscalculation on her point. And by the way, I was dying. The reason I was laughing is because Chris said in the chat, Kaylin has a crew. Like, to me, like, Kaylin's influence is like this big, like not very big. And so the fact that you're like Kaylin's crew, it just like makes me cackle. Yeah, so that's fun. I take your point though. She has a few people that she thinks she has influence over, and so that's probably good enough for her.
Yeah, in particular, she thinks she has Anthony. She thinks that she has Damien. She thinks that she has a little bit of Corey, which Corey is somebody that she might have some influence on over, but like I said, Corey is drifting over toward the Adam subgroup, and I think that's going to continue to happen, especially now that Kaylin and Eddie are pretty anti-Corey because they discovered that she made a Final 2 deal with both of them, and they're talking about how Corey is basically the female Adam, and she needs to go home as early as next week. So their one potential ally is somebody that they are currently trying to target. Mackey, as we've talked about, is dead in the water at this point.
It's just so nonsensical targeting your own allies. And by the way, I understand why a lot of people are really down a little bit on this season. This is why people are down at the beginning of every season, because it's a little bit like high school, where like all the pretty people, in quotes,
pretty boys,
are up here, are at the top, and all the jocks with their cheerleader girlfriends are up there, and all of the people down here are the losers who don't have any power right now. But Big Brother's a funny game, and it never ever lasts like this. So Like, give it a week. Come on. Like, I mean, I swear, like, I don't know how many times I've done this show where people are complaining about the season and about the setup of the current house. And I agree. Right now, it sucks. I don't like the fact that these guys are in power. I don't like the fact that they get to call the shots and do whatever the hell they want. But it's not going to last. And I know that. So get over it.
Yeah, I feel like every season I'm always like, I'm always just very middling on it in the beginning. I'm always like, like, I don't know if I'll like get into it. I don't feel so into it. And then, of course that changes like right away after, you have a couple weeks and a few people go out. I feel like that's when it always turns around and I'm like, oh, I don't know why I doubted this season. I don't know why I was so down on it in the beginning.
Let me say.
And that's just what it is.
Melissa, the downfall of Adam will be glorious because he thinks he's, the next thing to slice bread and whatever. There's a phrase I'm trying to think. I can't remember what the phrase is. The point is, he thinks he's fabulous and he thinks he ain't going nowhere and he's in for a rude awakening. There's no way they're letting him anywhere near the end.
What kind of bread is Adam?
White bread.
Yeah, white bread, definitely. White bread. Yeah.
All right. So that's the state of the house. I feel like that's probably the best way to describe it right now. It's the thing that makes the most sense to me. So that's where things currently stand. I do believe that there will be a pretty decent shift. In particular, I think that by next week, there's a very good chance that the Pretty Boys' whole sphere of influence will shatter, or at least split, because as we've talked about, Dane and Anthony are very set on targeting Sam. That has not changed, and I don't think it will change. So despite how terrible we think that is in terms of a move, it is something that they really, really want to have happen, and I do believe that will really open the game up from that point. So it'll be interesting to see where that goes. All right. You guys ready for the stock watch?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, baby.
I am ready, and I have my numbers ready to go.
All right, so we're going to rate each player. Because there are so many, and it often takes very long at the start of the season, I do want to try and speed this process up. We'll try and be brief about our thoughts for each player, if we can here. So,
and if we agree with it, we can just be like, agreed. Yeah. We don't need to like rehash, because I feel like a lot of the times in the beginning, we're like, yeah, I agree with that, and then we like say it again, each of us. And it's like too long in the beginning.
Yes. All right. Well, here we go. I'm going to bring up the board here. Here it is. I believe this is correct. This is that one. Now we're going to go over to ratings. Here we go. Here are the ratings. All right. So we're going to start with our HOH. Dane. How do we feel about Dane? Now, if you are new to the Stock Watch, if you have just joined and this is your first time following along the roundtable for the season, what we do is we're going to take every player on the season and we're going to rate them out of 10 based on their gameplay, their chance to win the game, with 1 being the worst rating, meaning they have 0 chance to win the game. They are basically a Victoria, and 10 being they are playing like they're Dan Giesling. It's going to be hard for anyone to possibly beat them in the game. And then 5 being replacement level, average player, so on and so forth. We are then going to use these ratings. We're going to average them. We're going to take each one from each of us and then an average from the audience. We're going to average those ratings together and create a price, which we will use in the stock watch, which I will explain after we do our ratings. So let's start off with Dane, our HOH. Brent, how do you feel about Dane?
Well, if 5 is average, I gave him a 4. I think he is close to average replacement level player. However, there are a few kinks in the armor. On the plus side, he is a really, as I said last night, a really charming guy. I mean, I hate the Pretty Boys Alliance, and I love Dane. I think he's really fun, and it's really hard to hate a guy who got that emotional over his HOH reveal last night. I mean, you just naturally want to cheer for somebody like that. I think he has some good instincts in the game, but as we've seen, he has some terrible instincts in the game. As if Taryn says, which I just love that you said this, the brigade would never. Like, seriously, what the hell are you doing targeting Sam? I went through this last night. I'm not gonna repeat myself, but he's a complete airhead for wanting to target Sam, especially when the rest of the house wants to already, and the fact that she is a massive target in front of him. But overall, I gave him a 4, and I think that he has... I am suspect that anybody will let somebody that charming get to the end of the game, but he's nobody's target right now.
All right, Melissa, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I feel like this is gonna be. It's gonna sound really bad, like because everyone I'm rating is gonna be about the same, and there's not gonna be a fun variety. It's gonna be really boring, just because like I don't feel like I know everyone enough yet to truly give them a great, like a differing ranking. So everyone's kind of on the same level, and so I'm gonna give Dane a 5 because I feel like he is doing pretty well. He's got himself in with the pretty boys. He's also, it seems that people want to work with him. They don't really see him as a huge threat, even though he won HOH. And I think he's doing a good job of mixing and mingling with people and socializing. And people aren't really looking at him as a target. So even though he's, he just won HOH, he's integrated with a lot of people, but he's not really a name that's been coming up recently. So I think he's doing pretty well. At the same time, like you guys said, the fact that he already wants to target peripheral people to his alliance is not great when there are a ton of other people in the house that he could go after that don't have any connection to his alliance. So I just feel like there's some missteps here and there, but time will tell whether or not he's going to actually go with those missteps and just mess everything up, or if he's going to learn from any sort of mistakes or, go forward in a good way. So I give him a 5.
All right. I am going to agree with the 5 personally. I do see that he has some flaws in terms of his strategic maneuvering. I think that this decision to target Sam is really, really dumb and should make him lower than a 5 because he's, I think, lower than average strategically. But I think socially he is above average, and his positioning is one of the best in the house. And I think that makes up for the strategic mistakes. I think the fact that he has been so adamant about targeting certain people and then changing his mind and then actively targeting his own allies, closest ally and showmans, and none of it has blown back on him yet. Speaks to his social capability, and so for now it's a 5. It could go up, it could go down depending on where we land here with Dane, but 5 for now. The audience has voted, and the audience gave Dane an average of 5 as well. That's about average here for Dane. 5, right in the middle. So let's move on to Kiera, who is on the block, looking like they're going to stay this week right now, but not necessarily. That doesn't mean that it's going to stay that way forever. So let's talk about Kiera. Personally, I feel like Kiera has played very poorly. Last week, they were doing things that made them targeted this week. This week, they have not been campaigning particularly well. Certainly better than Mackey, but not like the best ever. So personally, I went with a 2 for Kiera. I do not like what they're doing. I think there is room for improvement, but I need to give them a 2 in order to give them that room for improvement. So I went with a 2. Brent, what did you go with?
Yeah, I think everybody agrees with you. In fact, I'm guessing the audience probably gave her a 2 as well, or them a 2 as well, maybe a 3. But overall, like for real, let me just say this right from the start. I'm not rooting for Kiera because of one thing. Kiera is such a sourpuss most of the time. Talk about somebody who's like a fun sponge. Seriously, just smile a little bit more, have a good time. You're playing Big Brother Canada. Aside from that, totally rooting for you. Representation matters. Love you, but get your head out of your ass and have some fun. So, but yeah, I agree with you. Everything you said about gameplay, I'm not going to repeat it. I give her a 2. I gave them a 2.
All right, Melissa.
Yeah, agreed. 2 as well. Just not great when they turn on the feeds and the biggest ally that they have is already turned against them because of things that they've done. It's not a good look to start out the season. The fact that they're on the block already, and the fact that it's flip-flopping this way where it's like we don't know who's going to stay, who's going to go. It's not a good situation. So yeah, a 2 for me.
Yeah, and I will say I was back and forth on 3 or 2, but the thing that really convinced me...
I was back and forth on 1 and 2.
The thing that convinced me to go 2 instead of 3 is that even if Kiera stays this week, which it does look like they probably will, they have such an uphill battle to get back to any kind of good position where they have influence and they have a chance to win again. Like, it's just, there's so much work to do, and they haven't shown any capability to do that work. So it is a 2 for now from the panel here. From the audience, they are not quite as harsh, not quite as cruel. The audience went with a 3 average.
Okay.
So there you go. That's Kiera. Next up is Mackey, and I guess I'm going to start this one off. I was also torn on Mackey's rating. I between a 2 and a 1, and I was considering it, and I feel like I don't give 1s out very often, but I think I'm gonna go and give Mackey a 1 on his first. This is a bold move here. 1 on your first week. He could very well stay. He could win the next HOH, and we could be seeing all kinds of different things from Mackey. But man, I just don't have any faith in him to do well here. So I gave him a 1. Brent, it seems like you agree.
1. Yes, I gave out a 1 during the first week. Talk about somebody who is just terrible at this game, who I don't think can win the game, who's making all the worst moves, who's actively trying to get himself evicted, it feels like. You couldn't play worse if you tried. The only thing you could do worse is quit. This is terrible, Melissa.
Yeah, I'm torn between a 1 and a 2 just because
Come with us. Come to the dark side.
I agree with what you guys are saying, but at the same time, he still has people campaigning for him to stay, and I feel like that's got to mean something. It's not like the house is unanimous against him, like we're getting this guy out. There's half the people of the house who want to keep him around, or at least are willing to fight for him. So I feel like the fact that he has that, he's doing something right. The only thing is that he's doing so many things wrong that it's really hard to see him staying this week. And if he does stay this week, it's hard for me to see him doing well in the future. So, oh gosh, I feel like I have to be giving him a 2. I just feel like I have to.
Well, the audience, this was a very close one. The audience was, I think, on the wrong side of history here. A little too nice to Mackey, in my opinion. They did go with a 3. It was an average of 2.58. So very close to a 2, but they ended up with a 3.
Yeah, it's just because, like, there's some idiots out there that are going to give him, like, an 8 and a 9. And, like, people who, like me, who like are in the right and know how he's truly playing, like we can't go lower than 1. Like I would like to go like -5 right now, like in skating when you like do a bad jump and you get a negative score for it. That's what he should be getting right now, but I can't give him that because of the rules, Taryn.
2 people gave Mackey a 10 and 2 people gave Mackey a 9.
Yes.
No, please. Did you cut those out?
I
feel like there's got to be like, I don't know. If it's clear that it's wrong.
Yeah, I know. It's I look for the cheaters. I look for the spammers. I consider you a spammer if you give Mackey a 10.
Yeah, that's a spammer right there.
So next up is, we say that and then, Mackey becomes the next Dan Giesling, and I'll issue an apology to those 2 people.
Oh, sure. Yeah, let me start writing my apology now.
Yeah, not sure that's happening.
So next up, let's talk about Adam. I think this will be an interesting one. Melissa, let's start with you.
Okay. It's tough. I'm torn on him as well because I feel like he's half doing things right and half doing things wrong. I just feel like the fact that he's got this Pretty Boys alliance is good. But then the fact that he's already got a huge target on his back for winning a bunch of things, that's not good. And the fact that he has a target on his back for his showmance, that's not good. And the fact that his own alliance wants to get rid of his showmance is not good. So I just feel like it's not looking great for him all around. So, I mean, look, he's such a big target. He's such a big target right now. And even if he has this alliance, he's likely the first one out of that alliance. So I'm going to give him a 4.
All right.
I gave him a 3 for all of those reasons and then some. He's playing way too hard, way too fast. He is a massive target in the house. Even people that are in his alliance will eventually look at him and go, I can't compete with that. I mean, there's going to come a day when Anthony looks at him and goes, yeah, that's just not working for me. Like, there's no way this guy's getting to the end of the game. I do not think he can win the game, and because of that, I gave him a 3.
All right. Well, I will say first that the audience agrees with you guys. The audience went with a 4 for Adam, but I am going to be a little bit of an outlier here, I guess. Look,
I don't know which way you're going.
Yeah, I'm like,
I am not a fan of Adam. I don't think he is necessarily a good player, but looking at his position, he is just so well insulated. And I do think that he is good enough at competitions on Big Brother Canada where competitions matter more. And he is insulated enough and social enough and strategic enough that I personally gave him a 6. I feel like it's a little bit above average. I feel like in terms of how well positioned you can be in the first week, he's up there in terms of safety, because even if people do go after him, I do believe Sam would leave first, which means he has a tight pair with somebody who is willing to throw their game away for him and will be evicted over him. And once Sam is evicted, Adam's threat level goes way down. He still has.
I don't believe that. That's the part I don't buy. I agree with you that in a vacuum, when there's a showman and one of the partners goes home, that person, their threat level goes down. But somebody who looks like Adam, who behaves like Adam, who carries himself like Adam, Taryn, there's no
wins
way
like Adam.
That target is not. It's in fact, if anything, it gets bigger because now he doesn't have somebody occupying his time. Now he's an even bigger threat.
It certainly happens, but usually what happens is when you take a shot at a pair, one of them leaves, and it takes a couple of weeks to get the other one out, because either they're good at competitions and they're winning and they take the target off of themselves by taking out whoever took them out, or it's just like, we already took that shot. That person's weakened, a new threat has popped up. That usually is what happens. I think that having somebody who is linked to you, who will definitely leave before you, is one of the best positions to be in the Big Brother house. And
the PS brings up that this is to win, though. So do you actually believe that Adam could win the game? Like, you really believe that? Like, on a scale of 1 to 10, 6 is the score you're going to give him?
Yeah, slightly above average chance, I think. On a season where Derek can win is the biggest jury threat on Big Brother Canada 6. I feel like Adam can win this game, and I think that people do respect him to some degree. I think that if he made it to the end, a lot of people would be like, there you go. And granted, this is very early to be saying that he can win. It's also very early to be saying he couldn't win. On top of Sam, he has Chelsea, who is still pretty loyal to him, at the very least loyal to Sam, and will be somebody who I think would then ally themselves with Adam if Sam left. He still has the pretty boys, who are certainly talking about wanting Sam gone before Adam, but also wanting to protect Adam. He has a sphere of influence that is bigger than probably anyone else in the season. So that is why I personally went with a 6, despite a lot of the failings that Brent mentioned here. So and look, a 6 is I think it seems high because that was like the highest anyone ever got on Celebrity, but a 6 is what we used to
average.
We used to give what's her name, Haley, and people who were very average on. I can't remember any of their names right now.
I know, right? Yeah, me neither.
I was gonna help you, but I was kind of watching you. Just
I think Angela probably got a few 6s along the way.
Yeah, I'm sure she did. Yeah,
so
the
there you
furniture,
go.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I think Angela and Rachel
seen
were
my T-shirt. Yes.
7.
Yeah, Rachel certainly had some 6s.
What's wrong with Angela?
So look, 6s, they're not that crazy here. So next up, let's talk about Anthony. Brent, we'll start with you on Anthony.
I gave him a 4, and for the reasons that are very much like Dane. I think he's a charming guy. He's playing a lot better than I thought he was going to play. Like, I really thought he was going to be like a total dumpster fire coming into the house, but he has not proved to be that, and I think that he's pretty well insulated within his alliance. However, he's one of the ringleaders of this let's get Sam out plan. If that doesn't come to fruition, then I'm definitely going to raise my rating of him, but right now I'm giving him a 4, and it's a low 4. I don't feel good about his overall gameplay within the house right now.
Melissa, what are your thoughts?
Yes, Doom, I'm watching the feeds. I know he's a charming guy. Brent, are you watching the feeds? Yes, he's a charming guy.
Brent.
Nobody's going after him right now. But again, you can't shoot yourself in the foot like this and want to go after your main allies, number 1 squeeze, and get a good rating from me.
Doom lives rent-free in Brent's mind every podcast.
Apparently, yes.
Every week. I'm probably gonna have to give him a 5 because I think that same reasons that you just said, Brent, and I think he gets along with people. People seem to think that he's working with them, even though maybe he's not. I feel his name is getting used a lot as like, oh, we can use him. He's our ally, even though like he's clearly with the pretty boys, like from our perspective. So I feel relatively good about him. I don't feel like he's a big target that people want to get out right away. But at the same time, we thought that about Jesse last season. So who knows what's going to happen.
That's very true. And by the way, when Kaylin figures out that he is not in her sphere of influence, that he's not a part of Kaylin's crew, then I think the fact that he once he's seen as a game player and that he's actively in an alliance, that's not going to help him either.
Yes.
Yeah.
I went with a 6 for Anthony as well. I guess spoiler alert for this one. I'm high on the pretty boys in terms of I guess the rest of the panel here, just because they're running the game right now. And I do think that they are in for a fall, but I think that they have enough influence and enough connections that even if they do fall, they're still in one of the better spots here. And so personally, I think that Anthony is a 6. I think he would be a 7 if not for the dumb plan to take Sam out. I think that shows that he does not have the greatest strategic ability, and you are also correct in that if he loses his influence with Kaylin and Eddie, then in regards to them finding out that he is a vote against them, or in regards to Kaylin going home next week, then he's kind of left without that kind of influence outside of his core group. But he also has probably the most influence within the pretty boys themselves. I think that he is close to all of them pretty well, and he has this thing with Dane. I think he controls that, and then also has good ties with both Mark and Adam. I think that of all the pretty boys, if it came down to the pretty boys, I think Anthony is the most well positioned of them. So I do like his current spot here, despite some flaws that I see in them. So the audience agrees with me on this one. The audience gave Anthony a 6 out of 10. So there you go.
They're falling for that charm. That's fine.
Hey, the audience was with you guys on Adam, with me on Anthony.
That's true. EB in the chat is like, this is so weird. Taryn is giving higher scores than Brent. Yeah, usually Taryn's like the Russian judge, okay? But now it's reversed, okay?
Yes, I apologize.
It's a figure skating reference.
I apologize that usually we don't disagree so much, so it's a lot easier to make it quick when we all agree.
I think we'll agree with these later ones.
Yes.
It's just about how we perceive the game. Who's next?
All right, so let's talk about Mark next, and I'll
another pretty boy.
Another pretty boy. Mark is another one of the pretty boys that I'm not as high on him as Anthony and Adam. I feel like Anthony and Adam are the two better pretty boys spots at the moment, and I think that they potentially have more win equity than the other two, but I think they're all just in a good enough spot where they should be at least a 5 or a 6. Mark is one that I went with a 5. When the feeds turned on, I would have said a 6, but I think that since the feeds have turned on and I've seen more of Mark, I've gone down on his social ability. His connections in the house have deteriorated a bit, and I don't like his longevity in the game. I just feel like eventually something is going to go wrong here. There's just something off about how he interacts with people, and he's very well positioned. Nobody's really coming after Mark in any kind of way, but I just can't help but feel like there's some kind of hammer to be dropped at some point, and so I went with a 5. Brent, what do you think?
Melissa, he's a little cliquey. I don't know if you've noticed about him, but I feel like he's a little cliquey and he's not well liked. Like Taryn, I feel reasonably confident about his longevity within the game, but I don't feel great about his ability to win the game. Like I don't feel like anybody's voting for this douche. Like he is a complete ass. I don't feel like it's going to look better over time, and I feel like already his some bonds and some relationships with some people are not doing so well. So he's not going to wear well on the rest of the house, I don't think.
Melissa.
Yeah, I gave him a 5 too. Same reasons as you guys have.
And to be clear, I guess I did give him a higher score than Anthony, but mainly that's because of the fact that I don't feel like he's going to shoot himself in the foot by going after Sam.
All right. The audience agrees with us here. They gave him a 5, and it was a 5.03. Very even on the 5. And to confirm there, Brent, you also gave him a 5, so it's a straight 5s?
Yes. Yes.
All right. There you go. Everyone agrees on Mark. Let's talk about Samantha. Sam. She's an interesting one to think about here. Personally, I am pretty down on Sam's chances. I think that she is in one of the worst spots in the game, where she is somebody who is tied to a very large threat. She is a threat herself. She makes herself a target. She will definitely leave over Adam. In fact, she's willing to throw her own game away for Adam. I just feel like what are her win chances? Like, they're very slim here. Like, it's if she wins the game, it's because something happened against her will to change the entire paradigm of her existence in the house. And so I do think that could happen. So I'm not going to give her a 1, but I am going to give her a 2. I feel like she is in just despite the fact that she is connected to so many people, even her own allies want her out. She is just in such an unprotected spot that I'm going to give her a 2. Melissa, do you agree?
2 for me. I'm totally disappointed in her. I don't care if she goes, if she stays, whatever, even though she's in my draft. Like, I'm so disappointed. I mean, I always hate when people throw their game away saying that they would do anything to give the game to someone that they're in a showmance with, or anybody at all ever, even if they're not in a showmance with them. So it's embarrassing. It's bad. It's, it's just so awful. And, the fact that you'd think, okay, so the one main alliance in the house is the Pretty Boys. She's directly tied to the ringleader of the Pretty Boys. You'd think that would give her the most protection. It's like being married to like the head of the mob or something. It's like you'd think like, oh, okay, you can't touch her, but instead she's next to go. Even the Pretty Boys themselves want to target her. It's very weird and bad for her. Her relationship with Adam is gross. The way that they behave on the feeds and the way they talk on the feeds, it's disgusting. I don't want to hear about what they're going to do to each other. Like, it's gross to me. I don't like it at all. It's not cute or fun and flirty. It's gross. And I don't like it at all. So,
okay.
I'm over her, and I'm over him too.
I'm over both of them myself.
But the fact is I don't think he would throw away his game for her.
Well, to be clear, I'm not buying that from her. I know she said that, but I'm not buying that from her. People say that all the time when they're in showmans. It's like, oh, I'll save you if I'm on the block, or I'll use
Chelsea.
the veto one. Again, people can say whatever they want to say. When push comes to shove, it is very, very rare for somebody to literally throw their game away for somebody else.
Maybe, but I don't even like the fact that she's saying it, and I don't think she's saying it as like, I don't want to argue over it.
The main point is that it's out there, and that the perception is going to make her lose a lot of respect in the house.
I gave her a 2, so I'm not arguing with her.
All right. Well, the audience gave her a 3. The audience a little more generous here to Sam. The audience very unwilling to go down to a 2. They came close with Mackey, but with Sam it was a 3.00. 3 straight on. So that's Sam. Let's talk about Chelsea.
Also, can I say one additional thing? People are like, oh, other people have thrown away their games for showmances before. This isn't a new thing. Yeah, that's true. But for the most part, they do it like way later in the game when they've actually bonded with someone and when they actually have like been together for a long time and they've, rode out the storm together. Like, I could understand that more. I can't understand it, but I could understand that more than week 1 showmance being like, I'll do whatever it takes. I don't care about this game. I just want to be with you. It's like, that's crazy talk. So yeah, okay.
Yeah, somebody said I bet there are some 10s in there for Sam. There were 4 people that gave Sam a 10. 0 people gave her a 9 though. So all right, let's move on to Chelsea. Brent, what do you have to say about Chelsea?
I have everything great to say about Chelsea. This is the person who I gave myself the first pick in the draft for, and I still feel great about Chelsea. I actually had given her my highest score out of anybody on the list. 7 was the highest score I gave anybody, and I only gave 1, and I gave it to Chelsea. I felt great about her game. I like the fact that when things were going downhill for Kiera, she pulled away from them and said, basically, I don't want to be a part of a sinking ship. I think she's likable. She's tied to Sam. She looks completely likable next to Sam. She's also tied with the Pretty Boys Alliance, and I don't know. Now, I will say that I'm a little circumspect about her positioning within the house if Sam goes home, or if Sam ends up on the block and wins the veto, or if Sam and Adam go on the block and Adam wins the veto. Who are you going to put up? Maybe Chelsea. I don't know. But overall, I feel really good about her position in the house, about her ability to win the game. She's doing exactly what I think she set out to do by going in the house. Not entirely likable right now, I feel like, because the people she's around, but I do feel like that will change over time. So I feel good about Chelsea.
Melissa, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I feel good about Chelsea as well. I feel like she has the ability to go with the flow and go with different groups if she needs to. I feel like I don't see her attaching herself to a sinking ship, like just like you said, when Kiera had drama or whatever. Chelsea was like, okay, I'm out of here. And I feel like that's key. Just like the people who are campaigning so hard for Mackey, it's like you got to know when to cut it loose. And I like that she's able to do that. So I'm going to give her a 6.
All right, I agree. I gave her a 6 as well. I like her strategic ability. I like her social ability. Her positioning leaves a little something to be desired. I agree that if Sam leaves, she is a little bit isolated. She may still be connected to Adam in some ways, but I need her to branch out a little more and develop more relationships outside of Sam and
She's
Adam.
A little cliquey as well.
Yeah.
I called Mark out on that, and I'll call Chelsea out on that as well. The one thing I don't like about her game is that she does feel very cliquey.
Yes, the audience agrees with Melissa and myself with a 6 here for Chelsea. So let's move on to Kiki, aka Kiera. So we are calling her Kiki. Some people in the house call her Kiki. She's also referred to as Kiera on occasion, but until one of the Kieras leave, I am always going to refer to this Kiera as Kiki, so as to not get confused. This Kiera, I do not like very much. I like her personality. I do not like her game very much. As I mentioned, I feel like she is kind of the one that is dragging Stef down, and I would have said that she was maybe a 4, maybe even a 5, even just a day or so ago. But as things have deteriorated and her position in the house has gone down, and she has doubled down on the thing that has made her position go down, I am very, very upset about her and Stef and where they're going. I want them to succeed, and I'm really I do not like what Kiki is doing, so I gave Kiki a 3 this week. Melissa, what did you think?
Yeah, I feel like she's tying herself to the Mackey sinking ship, just like we said, and I don't think that's a good move for her. I think it's the fact that they already are saying that they want to leave her and step out of the vote is really not great. It's one thing to tie yourself to a sinking ship, but it's another thing to have the whole house be like, we want to frame them, essentially, like kind of frame, but they want to frame them so that next week they can be like, you guys went against the house. You're the only 2 that voted for Mackey. That's an automatic reason to put them on the block. So, I mean, if this plan plays out, it's going to be bad for them. It's totally possible that before the end of the week, someone's going to tell them like, hey, by the way, this is what's happening. Don't vote that way. I don't
think that changes anything though. Like if they find out,
they're still on the bottom. Yeah, but like it's just one of those things where it's like they don't have an automatic reason, I guess, to put them on the block, but still, it's not good for them. So, I'm gonna give her a 3 as well. Unfortunately,
I gave her a 2. I really don't like her gameplay. A little ass kissing can go a long way in this game, and she doesn't seem to have any ability to do that whatsoever. Also, it's never good to be like, well, I'm going to vote however I want to vote. I don't care what you guys do. It's a social game. You should care what other people are doing. That just is something that is like Big Brother 101. And the obvious thing is that of the 2 of them, between Stef and her, she's always the one who's going to be evicted first over Stef. She's the more unlikable one on a scale of likability from our point of view. We're all rooting for her, but within the house, I don't think people like her, and so it's a 2 for me.
Yes, the audience in the chat. People are saying, "Hey, I submitted my vote before a lot of this stuff with Kiki went down today, and so it's higher than I would have had otherwise," which may reflect in this vote. We went as high as 3. The audience went with a 5 for Kiki. I think some of that is definitely timing. I think a lot of the negativity toward Kiki would have been, most of it happened today. I personally probably wouldn't have gone up to a 5 even before today, or even after, even before today, but things happen the way that they do.
Well, fortunately, I sandbagged her a little bit with my 2, so I feel like the average will still be like a 3.
The average is a 3, so it doesn't even matter.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about the other twin in this pair, Steph or Esty or whatever you want to call her.
Steph.
I like Steph personally.
Me too.
So yeah, let's talk about Steph. Steph not in the best position in the world right now because of what's happening with Kiki and herself. I do not like that she is not branching out, but I do think that, as we talked about with Kiki, that Kiki would leave before Steph would, and I think that if Kiki leaves, then Steph will be free to spread her wings and fly and be a social butterfly once more. And I think that she is very non-threatening, and I think she's very likable. So personally, even though they're not in the best spot, I do believe Kiki is much more likely to leave before her, even if they do get targeted, which is not necessarily a given. And so I personally gave Steph a 5. Brent, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, that's a little high for me, given her current positioning in the house. I mean, there's a chance that, especially with the fact that HOH can't play for the veto, that Kiki might actually take herself off the block, and then who are you going to evict? You're going to evict Steph. I don't understand why she isn't branching out more. She is likable within the house. I think people like her, and they're only kind of hooking her up with Kiki as potential nominees in a way because she's with her. Aside from that, I think they do enjoy her company, though, and it is a social game, as I said, but I just can't give her a higher score than a 3 right now because I feel like that her positioning in the house is so tenuous, and there are various ways for it to get even worse than what it is right now. So it's a 3.
All right, Melissa.
Yeah, I agree with all your reasoning for both of you, and I'm going to give her a 4.
There you go, right in the middle. The audience is, again, going to be a bit high on this one. The audience gave Steph a 6. Probably would have gone down a little bit. Maybe would have gone down to a 5 if they had seen what happened today. But there you go. It's up to a 6. So Steph may be overpriced if we're looking at it from Brent's point of view. All right, let's move on to Eddie. Eddie, one of the fan favorites, one of my favorites too. I really want to see Eddie succeed. But Melissa, what are your thoughts on Eddie?
I feel like Eddie is doing a really good job. I feel like he's socializing with a bunch of people in the house, a bunch of the different sides, and I think he's doing a good job when people are asking him about the vote, being like, "Look, I'll do what you guys want to do, but only if the votes are there." And he's being honest, but not totally honest. And I think that that's kind of the way to play it. People all seem to like him, which is good. So I'm going to give him a 6.
Brent.
Yeah, I gave him a 6 as well. I think that people enjoy him. I don't think he's going anywhere right now. I think he has a pretty good idea of what's happening in the house. I like his ability to lie. I like his ability to kiss ass when he needs to. And all of those things should serve him well. So it's a 6 for me.
All right. I also gave him a 6. I like how he is not a threat to anyone. He is not a target of anyone. Everyone likes him. Like I said, I think that he doesn't have a lot of influence over anyone right now, and that's kind of a problem, but not a big problem. As long as
it's
he's
not a big
safe,
problem.
Yeah, as long as he's safe, it's fine. And then eventually he will need to, he is not in a position to win right now. He does need to do work to make that happen. So at some point, this rating for me has a timer on it where the further he gets without obtaining some influence, the lower it's going to go. But for right now, he's doing everything he needs to, and it's a 6 from me. It's also a 6 from the audience. But I will say he has the highest average rating of anyone on the entire board, which might spoil some of the remaining contestants. But so yes, spoilers, Damien, Corey, and Kaylin, none of them received a 7. Eddie got a 6.4 average rating. So nearly got a 7, but not quite. Not quite. Let's move on to Damien. And Damien's another one that I like, and I also like his positioning. I feel like Damien is kind of the other version of Eddie in many ways, where a lot of people like him, nobody's really coming after him, doesn't have a lot of influence. So, Brent, what are your thoughts on Damien?
For all those reasons, I gave him the same score that I gave Eddie, and I gave him a 6.
Mm-hmm. Same.
Me too.
All right.
As did the audience.
Yeah.
Really, it's a lot of the same things as what we said about Eddie. So not much more to say about Damien. Let's move on to Corey, who entered the house, made 3 final 2 deals, and got caught with 2 of them, and has kind of been drifting in between 2 groups, the Kaylin group and the Adam group. We're still not entirely sure where she's going to fall, but how do you feel about Corey, Brent?
I gave her a 5, and I do like the fact that she can drift between different groups. I also am really not trying to hold it against her, the fact that her final 2 deals were found out. Again, she was forced to do that by Big Brother. So the fact that, it's not something that naturally came about. I think she would have been a lot more tactful and a lot more judicious about who she decided to pick if she was able to, but she was not able to. So I'm not going to hold that against her. She's really she's a go-getter. I really enjoy Corey, and I'm really glad. I mean, they call her our asset that we added to the house, but she is an asset to me because she's really fun, and I find myself rooting for her. So I gave her my 5.
Yeah, I agree. I gave her a 5 as well, and I like her, and I feel the same reasons. I feel the same way about her as you just said, Brent. Like I think that given such a difficult mission, I think that she did a good job, and it didn't totally tank her game, which I was afraid of. So I feel like anything is better than that. So I feel good about her.
By the way, really quickly, I know that people in the chat are talking back about the fact that a few people have brought up targeting Corey next week when she's not immune anymore. I know that, but I still feel like by the time that rolls around, people are going to have bigger fish to fry, Taryn.
There are very few people that are actually still planning on doing that. Dane is somebody who was very against Corey, but he is much more against Sam. And even if somebody who is under Dane's influence, I think he would want Sam to go. Kaylin really is Corey's biggest threat at this point. Kaylin, who should be going after somebody else.
Never mind. I'll wait till I get to Kaylin.
Well, I will agree. I will agree with the 5 for Corey, as does the audience. So it's straight 5s for Corey. And let's move on to Kaylin, who really is just all over the place here. She seemed a little bit promising at the start of the feeds. She had influence over Dane, was not able to capitalize on that influence. She wanted the backdoor plan to be in effect. That did not go through, and she is now losing her influence over Dane, and so that's not good. And then her planning for next week is just all over the place. She is talking about how she has a gut feeling that everything's fine, nobody's flipping on them, they can trust Anthony and Damien, and she makes money on those gut feelings, so don't worry about it, Eddie.
She's a psychic.
She's constantly talking to Eddie about terrible ideas like putting Corey on the block and now targeting Corey next week, or even letting Adam win the HOH next week so he can target Corey because she knows that'll happen. Eddie keeps being like, no, I don't like those. That doesn't sound right to me. And she doesn't listen to him. And she is one of the major targets for basically the entire side of the house. Even people like Stef and Kiki, who don't really have a much reason to target her, are like, it would be great if she got targeted. That's fine with us. Eddie is going to be the only person in that house that's wanting to keep her. Almost everyone else is actively wanting her to leave. Anthony might be somebody that doesn't target her. He might want to go after Sam first, but Sam, Chelsea, Adam, I think Mark to some degree, I think Kiera, when they stay, will certainly want it to happen. A lot of people are targeting Kaylin as early as next week. I could very easily see her being the next person to leave. I gave her a 3. Melissa, what did you think?
Yeah, I give her a 3 as well for all the reasons you said. She just seems to be on the tip of everybody's tongue. They all want to target her, and I feel like that's not good at all, especially this early in the game. So, and the fact that she seems like a little bit oblivious to it, and the fact that she thinks that she has all this influence over people and she has this whole like squad or whatever, like it's not the way she thinks it is. So, yeah, I got to give her a 3.
I think this is my time for me to imitate a psychic like Carmack and do my impression. So the answer is Kaylin, and it's somebody who overestimates her ability to play Big Brother. That is Kaylin right now. I don't know what the hell this girl is doing. I mean, like from the get-go. Her decision to say that she was 29, and if you have seen the pictures that I have retweeted of her, I don't think she could pass for 39. She looks more like 49 at times. So setting that aside for a second, she, like I said, totally overestimates her ability in the house. Is targeting her own allies. She's a complete mess. I don't know what she's doing. And add to that the fact that if by some random chance, if Stef and Kiki, and they're planning on throwing HOH, right? But if they, let's say it's a crapshoot and they accidentally win it, I could see them actually going after Kaylin. It's just such a mess for Kaylin right now. And she doesn't listen to people who have good instincts. So I gave her a 2. And it's not, I almost gave her a 1, but, she's trying and she has a little bit of a semblance about what she should be doing. So I didn't want to be too hard on her, but boy, yeah, and I agree with 50. It's more like 55 and not 29. So I gave her a 2.
All right.
Sorry,
the
Kaylin.
audience was a little more generous here with Kaylin than we were. The audience gave her a 4, but it was a close one. They almost gave her a 3, but that is going to average out to 3. So there you go. Those are the player ratings here. It does not go higher than a 6 at the moment, and there are a few 2s. So level of gameplay is not super high yet, but still I'm willing to bet better than probably any week on Celebrity Big Brother. So we'll see how that goes. So now is usually the part where we would go and do the buying and the selling, but we are changing the timing of what we're doing now. There were multiple times during these ratings when I got these spikes of stress where I was like, now I need to figure out who I'm buying. No longer. We are not, we're making a change. We're not going to buy and sell immediately after doing the ratings. What we're going to do instead is the 3 of us and whoever else wants to play along as well will have until Thursday to make your decisions to buy or sell. Now that gives you a little bit of time where things could change, where if, for instance, it's the entire house decides to flip on Chelsea and Chelsea is the biggest target. Now you know I'm not buying Chelsea for $6 on Thursday. So there are some scenarios where that could happen, and that's kind of interesting. But basically, you need to get your decisions in before the spoilers are released on Twitter on Thursdays. So about 3 p.m. or so.
3 p.m. sounds good.
Yes, in order to make those decisions count. And then the next week, we will go over the decisions that we made in the previous week to buy and sell after we update the prices for that week. So basically what will happen is next week, we will do our ratings, and then we will say, all right, here are the decisions that we made. I decided to buy 5 shares of Mackey at $5, and now he's at $2. So I just lost a bunch of money. So that was a terrible decision. Or I just bought 10 shares of Kiera at $2, and then they won HOH, and now everyone's aligned with them, and they're in a fantastic spot, and their price went up to $6, and so I just made a bunch of money, and what a great decision that was. And so that's how we're going to do it from this point on. I think that it will hopefully make the game a little easier to follow, because we won't be trying to make these decisions on the spot, and we can explain our decisions a little more easily as we go, and the numbers won't matter as much as the wins and the losses. So the decisions that we made will be a little easier to track.
Have we decided about what's happening at the end? Are we still? Is it still whoever wins, whoever has the most shares of the winning player, that's the person? Basically, what do you need to change so you can beat me here, Taryn? Because we've done the stock watch 3 times and I've won it 3 times. So
we've made incremental changes each time, trying to improve the stopwatch, and try to make it better, make it easier to follow, and hopefully make it a little more fun, and also differentiate it from. Sorry, what was that?
All right, go ahead. Well, I just wanted to get the rules out of the way from the beginning about how do we win?
Right. So to differentiate it a little bit from the drafting, where basically what happens is every season it's like, okay, so now if this person wins, then this person wins the draft and this person wins the stock watch, because so on and so forth. Instead, we have all this money. I wanted to make it a little more about the money and the buying and the selling and the making a profit on those buys and sells. So it's a small change, but basically you can bank your money at the end. If you've made a lot of money over the course of the season through buying low and selling high, then you can bank that money. You don't have to buy the winner in order to get any money left from the thing. So also, if you have any shares in the winner, that winner will pay out at $10. So for instance, if Brent has 20 shares of the winner that he bought at $8, then Brent will make $2 on every share that he has of the winner, and will make a profit of $40. And if I banked at $50, then I could still beat him. If I banked at $30, then he would beat me. It sounds complicated now. It's kind of like when you watch Social Strategy Sundays and we're trying to explain the rules of a very simple game, but it sounds complicated. Don't worry about it. It will be, I believe this will all be a lot easier to explain than it has been in the past as we move forward. But I wanted to give you guys a heads up that this is what we're doing moving forward.
Next week, just to be clear, next week we'll have stuff to talk about.
Yes.
We'll be like, okay, so this is what I did. I bought this and this and this. So this is the only week that we won't have something to talk about is this week.
Yes.
And that's just how it is. And just to be clear, so the person at the end who has the most money is the winner.
Yes.
Once everything is cashed out and everything.
Exactly. So you don't have to the numbers. I'm explaining it so that people who want to follow along or play along at home understand. But basically, what this means for the listeners is that you won't really hear the numbers as much anymore. We're going to gloss over the numbers and just basically the numbers we're going to be tracking week to week are losses and gains. Who made good decisions? Who made bad decisions? And so it'll be hopefully easier to follow as we move forward. And so what we're going to do also is we're going to give some advice every week. So a little bit back to the roots of the original stock watch of who would you be buying, who would you be selling. This is we're a pundit on a TV show. People are asking us who's undervalued, who's overvalued, what should we be doing, what decisions should we be making this week. So that's what I want to do here. And Melissa, let's start with you here. If you were going to give advice to anyone playing along at home, who do you feel like is undervalued right now and might their value might go up in the following weeks?
Oof, undervalued. I think Anthony might be undervalued at this point. I feel like okay, so I think that in general, Chelsea and Eddie and Damien are undervalued because I could see them going up, but at the same time, they're valued highest in our rankings right now. So I think in terms of like who's like middle of the pack who could do better in the coming weeks, I could see Anthony doing really well. So I think him, possibly Corey, I could see them being dark horse characters.
Yeah, I can't see it right now on my screen. What is Steph currently rated at?
Steph currently is $5.
Oh, yeah, that's probably about right. Yeah, I was going to say, because I gave Steph a 3. I think it was the stupid audience rating that caused her price to spike some. I still think she's maybe a little bit undervalued. I still think she's going to play a good game. Also, Kiki, if she can somehow avoid what's coming down the road in the next 5 days, she can make a rebound. Everyone, maybe even Sam too. If by the grace of God, maybe Adam goes home first and not Sam. Maybe she wins the veto. Maybe they get wise that they should be evicting Adam if he wins another couple of comps. That would be fun. And then, maybe if she can develop a likable personality, that would also help.
Yeah. I think Kiki is probably a good one to buy right now. She's probably not in any danger of leaving necessarily anytime soon. So, you can probably hold on to her with minimal risk of losing your money. And if she goes up, that's great. And the possibility is there. If she goes down, you're not going to lose too much probably. So Kiki is probably a good buy here. And then also we're going to talk about who might be overvalued right now. Who is maybe a little overpriced. And for me, I think that really it's all three of the sixes here. I would not buy Chelsea, Eddie, or Damien. I think that they are all potentially. It's going to be harder. It's going to be hard for them to go above a 6. I think it's going to be hard for them to breach into the 7, and it's going to be very easy for them to drop. So I personally would not buy any of them at $6.
I think that's fair.
All right. Do you guys have any overpriced people, or you just agree with me?
I mean, with Chelsea, sorry, it's because I can't see it. It's so small in front of me. What's Chelsea currently
At
priced
$6.
at? $6, yeah. Chelsea is probably somebody who, even though I love Chelsea and I think she's great, if somebody's going to go down, it's probably her. But hopefully not. I think she's doing great right now, and I'm holding out hope.
All right. Okay, so let's move on. Like I said, it's I do think this will be easier to follow in the future. I apologize for the lengthy explanation. You probably didn't even need to hear it because it's not even that much of a difference. It just sounds like a lot of a difference. So let's go. I asked some more bonus questions here. One of which was, how would you rate the episodes of Big Brother Canada this week? And the answer was 6.4 average. A little bit above average. It's pretty good.
I think I'd rate it even higher. I'd probably get it a 7.5. I felt good about the episodes that they gave us. I mean, it was pretty representative of what happened this week. And also the fact that, last season was so freaking terrible. So I guess I'm grading on a little bit of a curve there. But true. I'm liking what I'm getting right now. So more of that, please.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I think in terms of Big Brother Canada, this was probably like a 6 or a 7. With Big Brother in general, though, I feel like for me it was a 5. Especially the first couple of episodes, I felt like they kind of dropped the ball. The third one I liked, I thought was on the right path. So hopefully this goes up for me. But for me, it was about a 5 on the episodes. But how do you rate the feeds? This was about the same from the audience, a 6.5 on this one. So which I kind of agree. I would say maybe a 6 for me with the feeds. They're not like lit right now or anything.
They're not
right?
lit.
Like,
well, that's because everybody thinks they're safe. Everybody thinks they're like, even Kaylin, who was in great danger, she thinks she's safe. Kiki and Stef, they think they're safe. Once people realize you in danger, girl, then we're gonna have some fireworks.
Yes. And really, like, there's a lot of flexibility and fluidity to the game and the strategy, but there's nobody really controlling that. It's just kind of this mass of stuff that's just happening, and I don't know if there's a lot of like investment yet in the players. So
y'all know what I'm rooting for. I think Mary said this in the chat earlier. I'm rooting for a Sam HOH. Like a Sam HOH would be so fun. Her and Adam would have the HOH room. Look, I know Melissa's giving me the bad look, but look, just go with me on this.
Oh God!
Like, if you want their target to get so freaking big, I think it would be hilarious to have a Sam HOH. So, because then she would definitely go like Dane would be so mad that she got HOH. Like I would just live for it.
I also asked, who is your favorite player, or really rank rank the players from your favorite to your least favorite, and I think this is another part of the maybe a little bit of just kind of like about this season, is that there's no heavy favorite. Since we've been asking this question, there has always been one person that is way ahead of the rest. That is not the case this season. We do have Eddie in first place, but right behind him is Stef. And right behind Stef is Damien. And right behind Damien is Kiki. And then there's a little bit of a drop. And then we have Corey, a little bit of a drop. And we have Chelsea. And then a bigger drop, and then we have the rest.
Basically, like, it's just the power structure of the house turned upside down is where everybody's at right now.
Well, not entirely, because Mackey is down at the bottom, Kiera is down at the bottom, and Kaylin is down near the bottom. We have the 3 pretty boys right under that first top group of Dane, Anthony, and Mark, and then you have Adam and Sam both at the very bottom together, with Sam just below Adam.
All right.
There you go. I also wanted to know who was the right target for Adam during his HOH run. Who should he have targeted? And most people agreed with what he went with Laura as the target. With some people saying maybe he should have targeted Kaylin. Maybe that would have been a better choice. But I have to agree. I think Laura was the right call, based on what we saw, which was very, very little.
Very little, yeah.
Then I asked, who should be Dane's target this HOH? Who should he be targeting? And it was dead even between Mackey and Kiera. People really are not sure exactly. Mackey just edges Kiera out in terms of people thinking that Mackey should be the target over Kiera. But we also had just below Kiera is Sam. There are a lot of people that think that Sam should be targeted. In fact, 20% of the audience said Sam should be Dane's target, which I don't know where they're coming from.
I don't either.
Yeah. And then 14% said Kaylin, that he should have gone after Kaylin, which I also would disagree with. I think he has a good enough relationship with her.
He has a great relationship with Kaylin. What are they talking about? By the way, for the stock watch, are we getting $20?
$20 per week.
Fabulous. They wanted to know.
All right. So we already went through the twist questions. The only other one I asked was about the having no veto in the first week, and people were slightly against that one, about a 43 average.
That was dumb.
Yeah.
I didn't like it. I don't like the fact that they don't have a chance to save themselves. I mean, come on.
Yes, and by the way, if anybody who wants to run a stock watch on Reddit or in the Patreon group wants to have any clarification on the rules, just ask me and I will help you out in terms of what we're going to be doing with that. So that's probably what I just should have done instead of explaining the whole thing on the podcast. So finally, I asked, who do you want to be evicted this week, Kiera or Mackey? And this is a pretty close vote. 55% said Kiera.
Can we have both of them evicted?
44%.
Honestly, like, that'd be fine. Let's just move on, like, get rid of both of them. Whatever.
Mackey because he's totally clueless, and Kiera because they're such a sourpuss. So, yeah, I'd be fine with that.
Yeah. There you go. So those are the bonus questions, and we're gonna switch back over to this view, and that's really what we have for you. Is there anything else that you guys wanted to bring up before we start to wrap up the first roundtable of the season?
Yes, there was one thing I wanted to say for those people who think I'm being hard on Kaylin for her saying that she's 29. I think the thing that she miscalculated is that when you're in the house and you're on camera all the time, you don't always have makeup on. And I feel like that's where she made her miscalculation, because when she was on stage with Arissa, I could almost buy that she was 29. Almost. Not quite, but almost. But then when, you got no makeup on, you're sitting there in your underwear on camera, you don't look 29 anymore, so she needs to rethink that. Just come clean, Kaylin. Tell them about your kids when you win HOH.
I think it's also the fact that, like, when she's saying she's 29, it makes her not even, like, usually the
Shady.
cast is like 22 years old or something like that. So then when you're 29, that's considered old. But now I feel like the cast is more tilted towards older than 29. And so, or at least that's not considered old anymore for this cast.
Yeah.
And so I think that makes a difference. It's like, oh, so now you're like in the middle of the pack and not like, oh, I'm the old lady, I'm 29.
And they call her mama, Melissa. Like,
yeah,
I mean, she's
the fact
got
that she
nothing
gives
out
off
of
that
this.
vibe. I could go in the house and say I'm 23 years old or something like that, and everyone would buy it in a heartbeat. But I don't give off a motherly vibe to people, and I don't go by mama and everything like that. I just feel like it doesn't work.
Yeah, it's not great. Not great. I mean, Kaylin is interesting, and I think that it'll be interesting to watch her in the game continue past this point. I really want to see what happens when she figures out that she's wrong about everything, and where she goes from there.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, that's going to be fun. Like I said, it's going to be fun to watch Adam's downfall, but I think it'll be more fun to watch Kaylin when she realizes that she is not controlling everything, and that the people that she trusts really don't care what she thinks, and that maybe some of those things that Eddie and Damien have been saying are true, but she hasn't paid attention to them. Anyway, yeah, I can't with her.
All right. Well, I will, of course, be back tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. Eastern to update you on everything that happened today on the Big Brother Canada 7 live feeds. And then Thursday night, we'll be live after the live eviction, live in quotation marks, eviction, to talk about the eviction and recap everything that happens there. And that's what we've got for you this week. Good start. We did it.
We did it, guys. We did it.
Fun show.
All right. Do we have a hashtag? Let me know in the chat if you guys have a hashtag for this roundtable podcast. And of course, you can also check out the Survivor coverage that's happening right now. We've got plenty of good Survivor stuff going on. There was an interesting interview with Spencer Bledsoe with Rob that people should check out if you are interested in Spencer. And then you can follow us on Twitter. I'm at Armstrong Taryn. Brent is at One Lucky Gay. Melissa's at It's Melissa with 3 A's. Let's see. We still Twistos Taryn Team 29. Taryn likes pretty boys. So something with pretty boys could be a thing. 29 forever. I don't know.
29 forever. That could be something. Yeah.
Yeah. Everyone's 29.
And Melissa is 29.
I think I saw Rob in the chat say at one point that he was 29. So that's a thing.
Can Taryn explain the stock watch again? Oh my God, Kent, I love you.
Mommy Melly 10.
I hate it so much. I hate it.
Mama M.
Don't put that out there. Oh my God.
Forever 29.
All right, Forever 29 was what we'll go with. Thank you everyone for joining us. For Brent and Melissa, I am Taryn Armstrong. Hashtag Forever 29. We will see you next time.